So many people like to ask, who is Gaster? Where is Gaster? What's he gonna do? And how is he gonna do it? When the hell is he gonna show up? But today, I'd like to pose the question, why does Gaster exist? Not from an in-universe perspective, of course. I'm asking why Toby Fox 10 years ago chose to create this character and start a decade-spanning analog horror creepypasta ARG that is still years away from its conclusion. I feel like so many people get caught up in the excitement of secret lore hunting that they forget that Toby Fox is an actually competent writer. All of the contrived lore and fourth wall breaking shenanigans in Undertale were for more than just making an interesting iceberg chart and farming game theory coverage. There's a story going on here, with a moral for the audience, a message Toby is trying to convey through all of these very unconventional storytelling techniques. In short, when Toby pulls this weird metafictional shit on us, there's usually a point he's trying to make, which begs the question, what is the point of Gaster? Why attach all this contrived metafictional baggage to a character rather than just be normal and make another gay furry? What is the message that Toby Fox is trying to get across to his oblivious and brain-rotted fandom by packaging it in an edgy secret mystery? In lieu of concrete in-universe Gaster lore, I think tackling this question is probably our best bet to accurately predict the role Gaster could play in Deltarune, and what his story could be about. And like I alluded to earlier, I won't waste your time by being the 500th video essayist to explain what the sound test room is to you. If you got this video and you recommended, it's either because you're already subscribed to this channel or because the algorithm deemed you brain-rotted enough that you should be subscribed to this Deltarune theory channel. In any case, I assume that you already know your Gaster lore inside and out. And with that out of the way, we can begin our analysis. At first, this might seem like a daunting task, but luckily we have a pretty good frame of reference for how Toby Fox uses metafictional concepts to convey a message. Turns out he made this other game about 10 years ago, and as with any good Deltarune video regarding Gaster, we're gonna spend 10 minutes or so talking about Undertale because, well, unlike Deltarune, it's actually a finished work. Undertale throws a lot of diegetic fourth wall breaking at the player throughout the story, but it can pretty much be entirely related to one character in particular, Flowey. Now, it might seem odd to draw a parallel between Flowey and Gaster, but they have a lot more in common than you might initially think. For one, both Flowey and Gaster are the first characters you meet and interact with in their respective games, considering Gaster a Deltarune character. Flowey masquerades as a tutorial character, guiding you through learning the mechanics of battle before debating you and setting up the main antithesis of the story, the ideology that you as the protagonist will try to combat on your journey, that in this world, it's kill or be killed. In Deltarune, Gaster acts as a guide through creating your own character and customizing their personality, before you similarly get debated and basically told the antithesis of the story that your choices don't matter. Though technically we could theorize that somebody else is talking at the end of the introduction sequence, but the second voice theory doesn't really matter for the purposes of this video. The fact is that both Flowey and Gaster essentially introduce you to the game and set the stage for the themes of the narrative. You could almost conclude that this Gaster character might actually be pretty significant to the story. Another thing that Flowey and Gaster have in common is the fact that they both kind of just disappear for most of the actual plot. But Flowey still plays a big role in the overarching lore ecosystem, and we can assume Gaster will be a similar case. Now for more of an assumption, a theory, if you will. Both Flowey and Gaster play important antagonistic roles in their respective stories. I think some people are hesitant to say this because they feel like labeling Gaster as an antagonist makes him less interesting as a character, and that just being lame. But you know what's actually lame? Centrists. Sorry. You can consider Gaster a neutral observer, I think that's fair, but he's definitely not a passive observer. He's literally out there making vessels and stuff. He's clearly got some experiment going on, and it's probably all going down in that suspiciously garbage noisy bunker that Chris seems to be traumatized from. I feel like at some point the fun gang or Chris or even the player might clash with Gaster's actions or ideologies, even if Gaster is trying to save the world in a time loop or whatever fanfic theory you want to go with. Playing an antagonistic role doesn't have to take away from his complexity. toxicity. It just means that he has unique ideologies or goals that don't exactly align with that of the protagonists. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't think Toby Fox made Dr. Wingding's 666 Gaster to be a character who only does good things that align with the protagonists morally. So this video will move forward with the bold assumption that Gaster will, at some point, in some way, do something the protagonists disagree with. With that rant aside, the final and arguably most important similarity between Flowey and Gaster is that they both have the most prominent fourth wall breaks and metafictional shenanigans attached directly to them. And hopefully I don't have to explain this one as much. Gaster literally talks to the player directly. As a reminder, we're drawing these comparisons so we can use Flowey as a frame of reference for how Toby develops and conveys metafictional commentary through its fourth wall shattering characters. This will be useful towards the end of the video where I actually have to answer the question of how he's going to do that with Gaster. But for now, since we've established the parallels between Flowey and Gaster, let's take a moment to consider what makes Gaster different. Starting with a pretty easy question. Is Gaster genuinely a scrapped character in Undertale, or is he Toby Fox's parody of a scrapped video game character? There's honestly not really a way to know for sure, but we also know that Toby Fox made Undertale fully anticipating that its players would dig into the code and find its secrets. If Gaster was really a scrapped character who was absolutely not meant to ever be found, then you would expect Toby to actually remove him from the game rather than, program a bunch of fun event Easter eggs about him. In fact, Toby himself wrote in the code of the game, quote, "Most of these seemingly unused texts and files are used. If you can find the in-game context for an asset, you can show it off. But if you can't, it probably means you haven't looked hard enough. Anything truly unused, I'll probably post myself later." So this leads us to a much more important question. Is Gaster being a secret, scrapped video game character diegetic to his story? In other words, will his lore and story in Deltarune play off the fact that his entire existence as we've known it for the past decade has been as an Easter egg in a video game? I'm inclined to say yes. To explain why, we unfortunately have to log into Twitter.com. Prior to each chapter's release, the official Undertale account was hijacked by a mysterious presence that is absolutely just Gaster for all the same reasons the voice in the intro is Gaster, okay? Now, the canonicity of these tweets is dubious considering, they're tweets. I will say that the dialogue teasing the Chapter 1 release seems to directly lead into the intro sequence, where Gaster asks us questions and uses our responses to create a vessel. But I'm not going to hinge this video on the validity of these promotional tweets. If nothing else, take these bits of dialogue for exactly what they are. Toby Fox role-playing as Gaster on his alt, which is actually substantial because this is Toby Fox writing dialogue in character for Gaster. We don't have many instances of Gaster dialogue for us to base our assumption of his character off of, so I'll take what we can get, because at the end of the day, whether or not this is canon, it's official Gaster dialogue written by Toby Fox. We see Gaster's distinct speech pattern and word choice here, which matches with how he talks in-game. So the character traits he portrays through these posts should logically also match with how his real character is, just like how Spampton's tweets match Spampton's character. All that to say, Gaster is described as someone who wants to talk to you. He acknowledges that the player has been looking for him, which seems to suggest that in some way, his existence as a video game secret will be a significant part of his character. After all, Deltarune has been not so subtly playing with the idea of video game secrets within its narrative. From Noelle's blog in the Spampton ARG, where she recounts her strange habit of discovering secrets in the game she plays, to the weird route in Chapter 2, in which Noelle discovers a pretty dark game-breaking secret in the very game she's a part of. There's also the weird secret Eggman, who people think might be Gaster, who literally gives players an Easter egg. I don't entirely believe that Gaster is explicitly aware that he is a hidden Easter egg from the code of the hit 2015 indie RPG Undertale by Toby Fox, But I do think that this meta-truth will be relevant and conveyed via an in-universe explanation, similar to how saving and loading in Undertale is explained via determination, an in-universe explanation that allows saving to be canon to the story without completely acknowledging that the world of Undertale is literally a video game. Similar to Flowey, I think Gaster will come to view his reality as being similar to a video game without actually realizing that he is in a video game in real life. Although, to be fair, if any character were to completely shatter this fourth wall and have absolute self-awareness, it would probably be Gaster, the guy who already speaks directly to the player. But I think the Flowey approach to this sort of meta writing is way more fun and less corny. The key takeaway here is that Gaster's existence as a video game secret will be a significant part of his character, and more importantly, a significant part of the point of his character. With a more clear grasp on the general ideas going on behind Gaster's character, we can start to form a picture of how Toby might implement them and what message he's trying to convey through exploring them. Again, it seems like a daunting task for us to figure this out right now, but as I mentioned earlier, we're fortunate enough to have a solid point of reference for how he might do this, courtesy of Flowey's character arc in Undertale. So how exactly did Toby Fox use the metafictional nature of Flowey to convey a message in the narrative? Because I'm sure you've played Undertale before, or at least watched a YouTuber play it and then watched a bunch of video essays explaining the lore, I'm not going to recount the entire ending of the No Mercy route to you, but it's in this part of the game that Flowey gives us a monologue basically explaining the punchline of his character to us. There are great videos out there that explore this monologue and why it's really well written in much better detail than I will here, because I'd hate to spend the majority of this Deltarune theory talking about Undertale. So consider this video by Andrew Cunningham required supplementary reading. I will simply summarize it here. Undertale's No Mercy route clearly assumes that the player has already completed the neutral and true pacifist routes, which is evidently a pretty accurate assumption, especially during the time of the game's release. Especially if you've been avoiding blatant spoilers, the typical Undertale player would complete a neutral route in which they make whatever choices they so please, and then do the true pacifist route where they make all the good choices to get the feel-good happy ending. Throughout these experiments, you form attachments to the characters, get invested in the story, and feel happy leading them all to the best possible outcome. And then you get curious. The fight button is on the screen all the time. You've heard rumors of a supposed genocide route. The entire premise of Undertale is that the story changes based on the choices you make. And so you wonder what would happen if you chose to kill everybody. And what happens is that you get absolutely read like a book by Toby Fox, who plops Flowey's backstory in front of you to reflect this universal Undertale player experience right back in your face, revealing that you've just been doing everything that he expected you to do all along. All of the contrived metafictional baggage of Flowey's character isn't just for funsies. It all builds up to the punchline that Flowey literally experienced what it was like to play Undertale. To reset the timeline, experiment with certain choices, get everyone a happy ending, and then wonder what would happen if he killed everyone. Toby gave Flowey all the same meta save resetting powers that the player has to show how they can be misused. Flowey is essentially an embodiment of the dark path you could go down if you choose to rescind all emotional investment in the story by treating Undertale like the video game it is and satisfying your morbid curiosity by making the worst choices possible. It doesn't matter that you're killing these characters you grew emotionally attached to as if they were real people. They're just characters in a video game, and you're the player above consequence. No amount of good writing will change the fact that this is a video game and you can do whatever you so please. And of course, the actual message being conveyed by giving this mindset to the emotionless antagonist of the story is that this way of thinking isn't necessarily good. You should be emotionally invested in the characters. You should care about this fictional story, because when you stop caring, well, you lose something. Toby Fox baked so much of the fourth wall into the story itself that you have no real excuse not to be immersed. But inevitably, people get bored and choose to break their immersion in the story, and Flowey exists to call that out. That is the point of Flowey, and to an extent, the point of the No Mercy route entirely. You may be thinking, that's really cool, Chris, which is my real name, not referring to the Deltarune protagonist. You sure did summarize someone else's Undertale video essay. What does this have to do with Deltarune? Unlike Undertale, which explicitly gives you the choice in every interaction to commit murder, Deltarune simply does not allow you to. If you try to hurt opponents in battle, they just run away before you can kill them. The game itself runs on these rules. No killing people. And you'd think that most people would just be okay with this, but inevitably some players find a loophole in this system and use Noel's mysterious game-breaking tendencies to break Deltarune itself and start killing. This is not like Undertale, in which a No Mercy route player is simply choosing the bad option that the game provides them. The weird route, for all intents and purposes as it's framed, is an unintended byproduct of Noel's presence in the game, only possible by the player going out of their way to break the game's established rules. You're not participating in the game's quirky system anymore. You're actively breaking it. So the question arises, why? What motivates people to do the weird route? Well, in Undertale, the No Mercy route is a product of the player's curiosity to see what the other, darker half of the game has in store for them. What are they missing out on by only making good choices? In Deltarune, though, the weird route is very much presented as the player breaking the game itself. And you're not doing that to see what you're missing out on, but to see what the game itself is keeping from you. In other words, you want to know what secrets lie deep within the code of Deltarune. How convenient that your friend has a knack for finding secrets in video games. And how convenient that this video has circled back to the topic of video game secrets, because we're supposed to be talking about the biggest secret in Deltarune, W.D. Gaster. Let's be honest, you're digging through Deltarune's code and lore to find anything that could relate to the Mystery Man. You're triggering a creepypasta-esque breakdown of the game itself to see if you can discover more about the ultimate hidden creepypasta parody, Gaster. Toby knows we're looking for Gaster. Hell, Gaster knows we're looking for Gaster. And as the weird route proves, the player of Deltarune is willing to do whatever it takes to uncover more about this video game secret, even if it's immoral, even if it breaks everything. And so, with all of this setup, what sort of message could Toby Fox be trying to convey? Well, from the overall tone of the weird route at least, I don't think Toby necessarily condones breaking his game in the search for secrets. At least I think he feels like it takes away from the experience. As I'm writing this script, I'm reminded of how he left messages in the files of Undertale calling out data miners for exposing the game's secrets online, including this quote: "Living in a world like this, where people can simply cheat out the answers in the code, your impatience has really damaged you, hasn't it?" This message was eventually changed in an update to, "Greetings, you have made yourself completely clear. Understood. I, your humble servant, will follow you to the utmost." Likely in response to the outbreak of Gaster fever, as people found the funny mystery guy in the code. You can read what you want out of this, but I get the sense that Toby witnessed how his fanbase was consumed by a secret hunting mania, and decided he would satirize this phenomenon by teasing secrets in Deltarune, only to comment on how absurd it is. Deltarune is already primed to deconstruct the relationship between the player and the player character, but I wouldn't be surprised if Toby Fox also explored other aspects of the player's relationship with the game itself. Toby Fox wants his players to immerse themselves in the game's narrative first and foremost. That much was made clear in Undertale. With Deltarune, though, the alternative is no longer to engage in a senseless genocide, but rather to tear the game to bits in search of secrets, mainly in search of Gaster. Now, obviously, Toby himself is the one adding fuel to the flames. He hid Gaster in the code of Undertale and has been alluding to him in Deltarune, tempting the player base more. So comes the million-dollar question that this video has been building up to. Why? Let me call back to one of the first few sentences in this video. I feel like so many people get caught up in the excitement of secret lore hunting that they forget that Toby Fox is an actually competent writer. By engaging in the weird route, you're allowing yourself to be consumed by the need to search for Gaster, disengaging your immersion in the narrative entirely, perhaps to an even greater extent than you did in the No Mercy route. What I think Toby wants to explore through the weird route and through Gaster's existence is the question, what do you give up trying to find a secret? You give up the integrity of your attachment to the fictional characters. You give up your immersion in the story and the game, also you can break it in pursuit of a potential discovery. Like a mad scientist giving up everything in their life, throwing all their morals out the window as they're consumed by the prospect of making a new discovery, uncovering the secrets of their world. Hey, wait a minute. A mad scientist giving up everything they had, throwing all their morals out the window to become a very detached and neutral character as they're consumed by the prospect of making a new discovery, uncovering the secrets of the world. This is just Gaster. This is what I believe the foundation of Gaster's story will be. Who better to mirror the player's morbid curiosity about the secrets of this world than a scientist who we know has been experimenting to uncover secrets about this world, experiments to do potentially with the nature of darkness. This is set up to be a perfect parallel, and a potentially very impactful way to make the player think about what they give up when they go down the data mining, secret searching rabbit hole. Gaster was shattered across space and time. He likely left behind sands and papyrus, sacrificing his relationships with others and even his own experience with life in pursuit of his own discoveries. I think this idea, while a pretty grounded interpretation of Gaster's character, is at least grounded in the good writing we've come to expect from Toby Fox, rather than just an infinite number of monkeys on typewriters writing fanfiction. If this interpretation of Gaster's purpose is remotely accurate, then my personal prediction for how this would play out is that Gaster's appearances in the main plot of Deltarune would be mostly limited, and most of our interactions with the secret character would occur within the bounds of a certain secret route. I think that just makes the most sense, considering how you can feasibly play through the entirety of Undertale and Deltarune as it stands right now and still not have ever heard of Gaster at all. Gaster is a secret, and I don't think Toby Fox will make it super easy for us to find him or find out more about him. But if you have anything to add or subtract from these ideas, feel free to discuss in the comments section or even our community Discord server. This is a relatively new Deltarune-focused channel that uploads on a weekly basis every Friday, so any support to help our community grow through subscribing or sharing this video would be very much appreciated. Also, if you'd like to directly support me and this channel, you can join the Patreon for as little as $1 a month to gain early access to every video as soon as I export them. With all that said, thanks for watching to the end, and I'll see you all next week.